Hi, good morning, and how's the weekend? So, this week we're coming to the end of our, nearly the end of our unit on research essay. So, this will be the last video, I think, about the research essay, and I'll just leave you in peace in the next 2 weeks to do your own essay. So, let's get back to the topic, research essay. Now, last week we learned how to use the citations and reporting verbs and to introduce your source materials. And I also talked a little bit about the plagiarism, how you could avoid plagiarism by using citations when you quote, all right? So quotations is slightly easier to do, and this week I'll move on to a slightly more challenging skill, that is paraphrasing skills. So let's look at the course unit, right? Unit 11, all right? So let me go to Unit 11, lesson plan. Okay, week 11 lesson plan, not unit actually. So let me find the lesson plan myself first. Okay, now last week, as I said, we talked about how to use citations to be included in the quotations you have used. And this week, very simple, I'll move on to talk about the use of paraphrasing skills. And with the paraphrases and quotations, you learn how to use the 3-step method to try to integrate your source materials into your essay, all right? Now, so the materials I'm going to use is in Unit 8, so you can refer to it, page 4 to 14, and 2 YouTube video clips, which are very useful, I think. Then you can watch it in your own time. I'm not going to watch it together with you, but definitely will be very helpful if you can watch these 2 videos. So let's start with a little bit of the tips about how to do the paraphrasing skills. Now, last week we learned how to incorporate quotations, that is word for word copying, from the source materials into your writing. Now, so we see what are the skills. Let's talk about the theories first. Of course, before you paraphrase anything, I like what you did in WC1. You chose a quote from a magazine and tried to respond to it. But before you try to do your responses, then you have to paraphrase the quotation, what exactly it means, before you comment on the ideas. So number one thing is very important. Whatever materials you come across, you want to use them, make sure you understand the author, all right, exactly what he wrote, and don't misunderstand the material. So read carefully is number one important thing. Then after you think you have understood the writer's ideas, then try to rewrite the ideas in your own words. Now, I know it's easy to say, but difficult to do. How do you write it in your own words? Then I'll talk about the different strategies later in this course. And then after you finish, then of course, try to make a comparison between the paraphrase and the original sentence. Make sure the ideas are similar, all right? They are similar. If they are completely different, of course, this is the problem. That's what I came across in marking your WC1. A few students misunderstood the quote, then of course it's difficult when you try to respond to it. You not respond to the relevant ideas. Okay, and of course, number 4 is to remind you about plagiarism. Do not copy directly from the original text. And for our center's policy, so if you look here, it says copy more than 5 words continuously, all right? Not counting proper names and technical terms. Proper names like John, Mary, Lingnan University, all right? All these words, of course, you need to copy. And technical terms may be globalization or virus at the moment, all right? They still be ID-19, and this what we consider to be the technical names. Of course, you need not change them, all right? But don't copy 5 words continuously, Okay, so check this. And number 5, be careful, all right, to see after you have done the paraphrases, whether they are grammatically correct. Now, not just the meaning, but the sentence itself, all right? The language is very important. And some of you, I made a lot of comments about your grammatical accuracy of your WC1. So review them properly, see if you can learn something from this. Okay, and then finally, make sure you put down the in-text citations. Okay, we talked about this briefly about the in-text citations last time. So make sure you know how to do it. If you don't, refer back to the previous video. Okay, now let's see how we can paraphrase. Now there are many different skills to do it. Let's look at our original sentence here. Okay, it says genetically enhanced crops reduce chemical pesticides, boost yields and reduce soil erosion. Okay, now I highlight the word chemical pesticides, boost and reduce. Look at the paraphrase. It says, more argue that genetically modified crops can increase yields, minimize soil erosion, and reduce the use of chemical pesticides. Now, what have been changed here? If you compare the original and the paraphrases, I would say, first of all, you use synonyms, all right? This is very common skills. That means using a word with different meaning. So such as the word boost, all right? The word boost, you change it to increase, all right? And then minimize, the word reduce, you change it to minimize, okay? So that's what we call synonyms. And rearrange the word order. So if you have a list of items, all right, A, B, C, like the above, all right, chemical pesticides, yields, and soil erosion. When you paraphrase, perhaps you could rearrange the order a little bit, okay? So instead of A, B, C, maybe next one you say B, C, A, or C, D, A, something like that, if the list of items have no order of importance. And another thing you can do is the noun phrase. So what is the noun phrase? The noun phrase is like the use of chemical pesticides, all right? So instead of using reduce chemical pesticides here, reduce chemical pesticides is a verb and the noun. You make it as a noun phrase, the use of chemical pesticides, okay? So these are the things that you can do. Okay, now let's move on to look at the second one. The second one is about figures, as you can take a quick glance, all right? So it's about the cost of electricity, okay? It says kilowatt hour of electricity from a new nuclear power plant costs 14 to 17 cents compared to wind farm electricity at 7 cents. Now, this is quite often that you try to use the data or figures. Now, if you look at that, there are two ways to paraphrase it. Look at A, all right? A, change it to the general meaning. Nuclear power costs more than wind power. So if you look at the figures, obviously, it's more expensive, all right? Nuclear power is more expensive than wind power. Second one, you could change the statistical representation of the figures. So if you look at 14 to 17 cents compared to 7 cents, the figures are almost double. So you could say nuclear power is about twice the cost of electricity generated by wind power. Okay, now, so what the paraphrasing skills used here are A, for example, the first one, definitely adjust the key information. You don't have to mention about the numbers, but just the general idea is that one item is more expensive than the others. Right? And the second one, of course, like I said, different statistical representation. Instead of using the real figures, you could just talk about double the figures, all right? And look at number 3 here. All right, now number 3 in the original sentence as this, you have 2 original sentences. So in 2004, the average cost of producing nuclear power in the United States was less than 2 cents per kilowatt hour. Advances in technology will bring the cost down further in the future. So if you look at these 2 sentences, actually, you can see the kind of cause and effect pattern. So why is something's cheaper, all right? The reason is because the advance of technology, all right? So if you can see the cause and effect pattern here, then you can actually bring two sentences together by using a slightly more complex sentence structure. So if you look at the paraphrase, it says, since nuclear energy on average costs less than 2 cents per kilowatt hour to produce in the United States in 2004, the cost will be brought down with improvements in technology in the future. So basically, the writer tried to link the causal relationship between two sentences, all right? So using since, right? And sometimes if there's not cause and effect, you can see the different sort of stance of the two sentences. You can use although and then followed by a different ideas. Although I worked very hard, I still failed the test. So some sort of two opposite ideas, you can link it up with all these conjunctions. Okay, so that also shows your understanding of the original text as well. And you could see that passive is used as well. So if you look at advances in technology, will bring the cost down in the original. In the paraphrase, you could change it to passive by saying the cost will be brought down. All right, so passive use, complex sentence use, and the noun phrase to subject verb phrases, like what I said before. All right, so instead of saying the average cost of producing nuclear energy, which is a noun phrase, then you can say nuclear energy on average costs less than 2%. Okay, so this is very useful as well. And look at number 4, slightly more complicated. The original sentence says, enriched with vitamin A, golden rice could prevent blindness in 500,000 children every year in Asia and Africa if activists would stop blocking its production. All right, now, at a quick glance, you can see that the subject is vitamin, the subject is golden rice, actually. The subject of the sentence is golden rice. Now, so when you paraphrase, you can bring up the subject to the beginning of a sentence and then follow it by what we call a relative clause. So which one is the relative clause? Which is a kind of genetically enhanced food full of vitamin A. All right, now, so here, then this relative clause could give extra information to golden rice and then continue with the rest of your sentence. Okay, so you could see that relative clause, and what type of relative clause, I'll talk about this later, all right, to create a different sentence structure, because it used the relative clause to describe the subject, golden rice. Okay, and of course the change of the vocabulary using synonym as well, so blocking becomes restrict. Now talk about relative clauses. I would like to remind you a little bit of grammar here. There are actually two types of relative clauses. One is called non-defining relative clauses. So what does it mean by non-defining? All right, now non-defining, if you look at the previous sentence, which is a kind of genetically enhanced food full of vitamin A, I would call this non-defining. Now, what does that mean? That means this clause just adds extra information to the subject. Without the clause, the main sentence still makes sense. Commas are used for the clause. So what it means is, if you just say, look at the paraphrase, golden rice could prevent 500,000 Asian and African children from going blind every year. Now this sentence makes sense. You don't need to have the relative clause. The relative clause here is just giving extra information about the subject, golden rice. All right, now, so be careful. There is another type of relative clause, which is called defining. So what does that mean by defining? If you look at this sentence, people who love animals are often vegetarians. Now, in this case, if it is defining, you notice, first of all, no punctuation marks, no comma, but also this relative clause is needed. Without it, the sentence doesn't make sense. So if you simply say people are often vegetarians, I don't understand what you mean, which people you refer to. So this is why, in this case, this is called defining relative clause, because people, you need to define which people. People who love animals are often vegetarians. Okay, so be careful, and then look at the punctuation marks as well. Now, since we are on the subject of relative clauses, I think some students would love to use mainly the non-defining one, like this one. But be careful, all right? Now, the verb forms is usually the problem. Golden rice could prevent. So golden rice is the subject, could prevent is the main cause of the sentence. Now, don't confuse with the subject, which is, all right? This is, which is a kind of genetically enhanced food full of vitamin A, is just the verb form for the relative clause. Okay, so make sure you don't make any mistakes about that. If you're in doubt, go and Google search on some grammar websites, looking at more examples about defining or non-defining relative clauses. Okay, now to sum up, what are the skills you can use? Basically, you can use synonyms, all right, words of similar meanings. Rearrange the word order. If you have a list of items, A, B, C, then you can change it to B, C, A or C, B, A. Use the passive or the active, vice versa. Use noun phrases, all right, the use of something, all right. So change from noun phrases to subject plus the verb phrases. Summarize the key information and use different statistical representation of data. So you could use percentages, like if the figures is 50%, you could say half. If the percentage is 75%, of course you can change it to say 3/4. Fractions, 1/2, 3/4, all right, and 1/3. So these are called fractions. Complex sentence structures, like I said, try to see the relationship between two sentences. So in the original sentences, if you see there is some cause and effect, of course you can use since. If you can see two sentences have different opposite meanings, then you use although, okay? And relative clauses as well, both defining and non-defining. You think about that. All right, now, so far, these are the basic skills. Okay, now, some students are very, very tricky. They said, okay, if you say that I can't copy more than 5 words, then what I would do, I'll just change every 5th word, all right, so that you won't accuse me. I just change, particularly use synonyms every 5 words, and I'm not copy continuously 5 words, maybe just 4 words. Now, let's look at this example, because by doing that, you'll be doing something unacceptable as well. So look at this original sentence. It says, even if you change every 3rd word in your source, you are plagiarizing. Okay, unacceptable. The students try to write, even if you alter every 2nd or 3rd word that your source gives, you're still plagiarizing. All right, now, globally, you can see that these two sentences are very similar in terms of the sentence structure. What the student has done is just use the synonyms or add extra words. So change become alter, 3rd word becomes 2nd or 3rd word, and add the word gives after source and the word still as well. Now, if you do that, we say that this is not quite acceptable, okay? Because it's clear from comparison, the paraphrase is copied from the original with only minimal word changes. So you have to rewrite a sentence actually to make it quite different from the original. Okay, now, so there is a task I ask you to do, so I'll leave it to you to look at it. And answer keys are here, I just go through very quickly. All right, now, if you found this is a little bit tough, then I recommend you stop here and watch this video from YouTube. All right, this video is very good, just about, I think, 10 minutes. I can't remember, but it just sums up what I've just said and give you another couple of good examples again. So I'll stop here for you to look at this. All right, now, when you come back, then how are you going to integrate both the quotations and paraphrases into your own essay? Sometimes it looks odd if you just put the quotation there. It doesn't look like your own writing. All right, now, so in this case, I would suggest this 3-step method. Okay, actually, you did this in the WC1 already. So what does it mean by step method. So if you look at these steps here, so number one, first of all, if you're writing a major argument in a paragraph, so your topic sentence, just explain your point, all right? And then you found some quotations or you use some paraphrases to make your statement stronger. Then the next thing is use a reporting verb or phrase to put in your quotes. And after that, don't stop here, because number 3 step is usually the things that students missing. That is, you need to explain how the quote and paraphrase relates to your points. Okay, now, so when you did your WC1 test, you did exactly the similar thing, that I asked you to find a quote and then you explain what it means, and then later on you respond. All right, now similar theories here. The whole point of doing this is to make your ideas coherent and clear to the reader. Now don't forget, you have looked at your source materials and I haven't completely. You just took out perhaps one phrase or one quote, which I need some background information or some more elaborations to understand what you mean by that. So that's why number 3 step is very important. Okay, now, so there's an exercise too for you to try it out. And then I'd like you to look at the essay model B we looked at before about online news. So I took out one paragraph here, very simple, sentence 1 to 5. What I need you to do is tell me which sentence or sentences belong to step 1. Step 1, that means here. Okay, step 2, provide quote. Step 3, explain, all right, the quote. So just do a very simple exercise here, and I'll jump through very quickly and you can see the answer key later. Okay, so to finish this lesson plan, I'd like you to watch the second video clip, which gives you more practical tips how to paraphrase a text step by step. All right, now there is no fast rule or rigid rule what you should do, but I think this video also gives you some more ideas how to do it properly. Okay, so please watch it in your own time. Quite useful, I would say. They'll give you some methods how to do it properly. Okay, now, so comes to the homework. I won't burden you with a lot of work this week. I know you must be busy towards the end of the term. So please, can you look at these 3 sentences about social media, Facebook, and I'd like you to paraphrase it, try it out yourself. Remember not to copy more than 5 words, and also not to just change 1 or 2 words, okay? And then post it on Moodle by April the 12th, Sunday. All right, and I'll give you the suggested answers, some sample answers on April the 13th. And then if you can do that, and I'm sure you'll be able to use your source materials and properly when you try to paraphrase your ideas. Now remember, don't try to use a lot of quotations, and the marking scheme clearly states that you cannot use more than 10% of the total number of your essay, number of words of your essay, so don't overuse it. Paraphrase is always good for me to look at whether you understand the original meaning of the text properly. Okay, so that's all for this video unit, I would say. Now next week I'll come back to talk about the introduction and conclusion to finish the unit, and then I won't be making any video anymore because it's quite straightforward introduction and conclusion. You could look at the lesson plan yourself. All right, now so make use of your time. Don't try to hand in your work late, and then you can do your work yourself. If you have any questions, message me. Okay, bye-bye. Good luck.